Yo, what is up? It's not a newbie. We are live. We're gonna be covering and reacting to the let's see, we're gonna be covering and reacting to Donald Trump's speech. Now, for those of you who don't know, Donald Trump did end up getting, actually hold on, I know I'm rushing things a little bit here because I was actually eating. I didn't know he was gonna start so soon. My camera is a little bit off. Let's see, there we go. Well, is that? Well, let me see here. There we go. I don't know. Hold on. Is it something's wrong with my my webcam here. Let's see, trying to figure out how to fix this. But anyway, hold on, let me see. Okay. Dang it! Dang it! Can't figure this out. Can't figure this out. For whatever reason, my camera's not working. Let me see. I get all these frame drops. It's so frustrating. I don't know. And I don't know how to fix them other than, I guess I could use let's see. See, no, that's not even it. That's not even it. You guys have seen me struggle with this like before, and I'm not sure what causes it exactly. Let's see here. Nah, it's still happening. I would hate to have to suffer through it. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's only so much that you can do. Your camera's just gonna look how your camera's gonna look. Let's see here. I'm gonna try deactivating it and activating it one more time. Nope, still dog water. But anyways, we have right here. We've got Donald Trump's speech at the ready. He's gonna be speaking, addressing the crowd at Mar-a-Lago. There we go. We've got some of his children there. One of them is a child-in-law, but still. Also, I apologize for my voice here. I do have a bit of a cold coming on. But anyways, this comes after Donald Trump has been indicted on multiple counts, 34 to be exact, felony business records tampering, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't want to get too much into how I feel about the charges, because I don't want to get cut off by the speech that Trump ends up giving. But general legal consensus seems that this is not a particularly strong case that they're bringing, in regards to these crimes, and he's not particularly likely to be found guilty. But then again, we'll have to see. You never know, to be honest. They could always, end up convicting him. It doesn't sound like they found any stronger crimes to convict him of either, or at least charge him with, because the indictment was sealed, and many had assumed it was because they were building a case for other crimes, but it turns out that was not the case. Now it looks like we do have Donald Trump here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump.
Interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure that this is going to seal the deal for him. He will be the next president of the United States. I'm not particularly happy about this. I mean, I kind of want to change from how we've been doing things as the Republican Party. And also, I don't know. Donald Trump is not particularly a small government candidate. I'm generally a fan of small government politics and policies. But nonetheless, we will see what he has to say.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea.
Support here, by the way, support for former President Trump has been fairly strong, by the way. He's gotten even more support, especially from mainstream Republicans, ever since these the indictment came down. Very many are, going down the I guess the most obvious interpretation of all these charges and believing that they're politically motivated. It's important to remember that Alvin Bragg, the person who decided to, the DA who signed off on these charges, it's important to remember that he campaigned on bringing down Donald Trump with criminal charges. So this just seems to be part of that agenda. He ran on that. He got elected as the DA because of his promise to take down Donald Trump in the realm of, legally. But one thing that will be very important to see is how this affects not just going after political opponents, because this at least sets a precedent that political opponents can be jailed just for opposing the current party. But let's go ahead and hear Donald Trump speak here.
Save our country. God bless you all. God bless you all. And I never thought anything like this could happen in America. Never thought it could happen. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it. From the beginning, the Democrats spied on my campaign. Remember that?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Me with an onslaught of fraudulent investigations. Russia, Russia, Russia. Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Impeachment hoax number 1. Impeachment hoax number 2. The illegal and unconstitutional raid on Mar-a-Lago right here.
I remember that as well. That was a big moment.
The lying to the FISA courts. The FBI and DOJ relentlessly pursuing Republicans. The unconstitutional changes to election laws by not getting approvals from state legislators. The millions of votes illegally stuffed into ballot boxes and all caught on government cameras. And just recently, the FBI and DOJ in collusion with Twitter and Facebook in order not to say anything bad about the Hunter Biden laptop from hell, which exposes the Biden family as criminals and which, according to the pollsters, would have made a 17-point difference in the election result. And we needed a lot less than that, like about 16.9. It would have been in our favor. Not my favor, our favor, because our country is going to hell.
This is the type of rhetoric he needs to lean into if he wants to win in 2024.
Who said Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. It didn't exist. It was Russian disinformation. Remember that? And that was all confirmed strongly by the FBI when they all knew that it wasn't Russian disinformation, and so much more. Our elections were like those of a third world country. And now this massive election interference at a scale never seen before in our country, beginning with the radical left, George Soros-backed prosecutor Alvin Bragg of New York, who campaigned on the fact that he would get President Trump. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. This is the guy campaigning. You want to get President Trump at any cost, and this before he knew anything about me, didn't know a thing about me. He was campaigning. As it turns out, virtually everybody that has looked at this case, including rhinos and even hardcore Democrats, say there is no crime and that it should.
It's not entirely true. Some people are saying that there is a crime, but it'll be hard to prosecute. So, a
Everybody,
little bit of a semantics thing there, but
even people that aren't big fans have said it. They said this is not the right thing to do.
yeah, Washington Post infamously made an
Country as the world
article
already
saying that
looked at us
Trump is not going to be able to get convicted
like our open
because he didn't violate the New York law that he's been indicted for, because he was running a federal campaign, not a New York campaign.
$85 billion worth of the best military equipment in the world. Lost 13 magnificent young lives, and far too many to mention that are so badly hurt with the loss of arms and legs and facial obliteration. The most embarrassing time in our country's history, in my opinion. Then our give up on energy independence and even energy dominant. We're going to be dominant within 6 months, more than any other nation times 2. We had this all just 3 years ago. Our raging crime statistics, if you look in Democrat-run cities, numbers the likes of which we have never seen before. The open threats by various countries of the use of nuclear weapons, something never mentioned or discussed by outside nations during the Trump administration, and which could very well lead under the Biden administration's leadership to an all-out nuclear World War III can happen. We're not very far away from it, believe it or not. An economy that has been crippled by the biggest inflation we have seen in more than 60 years, and a military that I used to defeat ISIS in 4 weeks. They said it would take 4 years. 4 weeks. To kill al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, that has now gone woke at the top levels by trying to indoctrinate everyone down to the lowest ranking patriot. But now they have really stepped up their efforts by indicting the 45th president of the United States, who received $75 million votes, which is more than any sitting president in the history of our country.
Didn't Joe Biden break the record for the most amount of votes?
And in
I can't remember.
They've got a
I thought he did.
local Democrat district attorney in Atlanta who is doing everything in her power to indict me over an absolutely perfect phone call, even more perfect than the one I made with the president of Ukraine. Remember, I kept
That was not a perfect phone call. I think it was highly questionable. I don't know if it constitutes any sort of breaking of laws, but
Sir, you
I wouldn't blame anyone for looking into that.
phone, or hung up in disgust because of something I inappropriately said, because nothing was said wrong. In fact, at the end of the call, we agreed to continue our conversation about election fraud, specifically in Georgia, at a later time. Many people on the phone, including lots of lawyers, nobody found anything wrong with that perfect call until a book promotion tour many months later. All of a sudden they say, you know, I remember Trump making a call. Let's look at that. This fake case was brought only to interfere with the upcoming 2024 election, and it should be dropped immediately.
It's very true. One thing to consider is that most of these charges did not really begin in earnest until over like the past month. We're starting to get into the heat of the 2024 political election cycle.
Known as a bomb thrower, who is harassing hundreds of my people day after day over the boxes hoax. You know, the boxes hoax, as we call it. Just so everyone knows, I come under what's known as the Presidential Records Act, which was designed and approved by Congress long ago just for this reason. Under the act, I'm supposed to negotiate with NARA, the National Archives and Records Administration, which as of this date is a radical left troublemaking organization that red flags the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights as dangerous and triggering. Can you imagine? This is what we have to deal with. But there is no criminality under the Presidential Records Act. That is not what it's all about. We were negotiating in very good faith, proper way, in order to return some or all of the documents that I openly and in very plain sight brought with me to Mar-a-Lago from our beautiful White House, just as virtually every other president has done in the past. When FBI and DOJ officials with NARA were here, I told my lawyer to show them the very secure storage room in which they were locked. The FBI's sole request in writing was, could you please put another lock on the door? We immediately complied.
That's funny.
It's a lot different than the Biden situation, isn't it?
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't hear any news about
By many gun-toting FBI agents who took whatever they wanted, including my passports and medical records. Everybody was in shock. Nobody had ever heard of such a raid before. Can't even believe it. Who would think that that could happen today?
One thing I really like about this is that Donald Trump is doing a really good job of making the case that he is being targeted politically for being an opposition leader in the United States of America.
Lawless. They're using it now, in addition to everything else, to win elections. Apparently, they're not looking at me through the view of the Non-Criminal Presidential Records Act. They came up with a new one. This is a new one. And they're looking at me through the Espionage Act. Think of that. How does that sound? Of 1917, where the penalty is death. Even though that has absolutely nothing to do with openly taking boxes of documents and mostly clothing and other things to my home, which President Obama has done, the Bushes have done, Jimmy Carter has done, Ronald Reagan has done.
Yeah, this is...
Everybody's done. In fact,
Yeah, another thing about this is that, for the Democrat Party, who constantly says that, no one's above the law, so we need to go after Trump.
but nobody's
They're very loath to go after Democratic politicians who've done the same thing.
prosecutor named Jack Smith. I wonder what it was prior to a change. Who others of his ilk say he's even worse than they are, is only looking at Trump, yet Joe Biden took massive amounts more documents, even removed many boxes to Chinatown. You believe that? He's got $10 million from China. Where did that come from? I guess they were banking on Hunter's expertise. And others stored in unsecured offices in Pennsylvania and strewn all over his garage floor, where his now very famous Corvette is also stored. All over the floor, including classified documents. But that's okay. Perhaps most importantly, he has 1,850 boxes in Delaware, which he is refusing to give up.
Interesting. I didn't know he was refusing to give those up.
Obstruction? That's obstruction. As president, I have the right to declassify documents. And the process is automatic if I take them with me. It's automatic. Declassified. Biden was vice president. He had absolutely no right to declassify as vice president. He doesn't come under the Non-Criminal Presidential Records Act. He comes under the very criminal Federal Records Act, unfortunately for him, but it's not going to matter because they don't follow the law, which has very severe penalties. He had classified documents that he took while he was a senator, which is absolutely inacceptable.
I didn't know he took documents while he was a senator.
Including Democrats, are outraged. He's not being harassed, hounded, like the people who work for me are. In fact, they seem to have forgotten about his documents entirely. So many, thousands and thousands. It's okay with him. They like to say that I'm obstructing, which I'm not, because I was working with NARA very nicely until the raid on my home. But Biden is obstructing by making it impossible to get the 1,850 boxes or explain why many documents were located in Chinatown. Can't explain it. Why were they in Chinatown? I don't know. Lastly, I'm under investigation. This time a civil investigation by another racist in reverse who also campaigned on, I will get Trump. I will get him. This was her campaign. Never ran for office. I will get him. Her name is Letitia James. And she proclaimed while campaigning, quote, I look forward to going into the office of the Attorney General every single day, suing him, and then going home. Before she knew me. She announced, what is fueling my soul right now is Trump. And that she had her eyes on Trump Tower. Those eyes are focused on Trump Tower. Didn't know the young lady. She even assured her supporters in an election promise that we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally. And then she claimed that I was an illegitimate president. Think of it. With all we did on energy, with all we did on the military, on taxes, biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation cuts in history, right to try, people able to get drugs now that aren't approved. Hopefully you don't have that problem.
Some of those policies, by the way, were repealed by the Biden administration.
Letitia James vowed to use every area of the law to, quote, investigate President Trump and his business transactions. Those transactions are going to be investigated, she said. And that of her family and his family. Because we're going after his family, and we're going after them hard. This is all before entering office and all before knowing anything at all about me. But she's going to get me. This is why, along with unrelenting crime, so many people and companies are leaving New York. She said that I falsified my financial statements, but in fact we're proving and will prove that my financial statements were substantially more than we submitted, not less. And in all cases have a strong disclaimer clause in them which tells the institutions that may look at that if they want to, not to rely on the statement. But they've got a problem with their case because, number one, I'm very underleveraged. They can't believe it. All the stuff they read and gave. And have very little debt relative to the value of assets. And importantly, not one bank has lost even $1. She was investigating me to save banks. They're very good lawyers. But they didn't lose $1 with us during this period of time. In fact, the banks we're talking about made almost $200 million off Donald Trump, and they liked me very much. We never missed a payment, never got a default notice, had a great relationship with all of them. I don't need banks. We have a lot of cash. I built a great business with my family, built a fantastic business.
Many in the mainstream media would take umbrage with him saying this, arguing they had lots of debt. Most rich people have a lot of debt, especially people who run companies.
I have a son here who's done a great job, and I have another son here who's
It doesn't mean that they can't pay off their debts. It doesn't mean that they're completely insolvent. It just means they haven't paid off their debts yet.
and Ivan.
It's very rare to find a company that can't make its payments.
He's smart, but I have a great family, and
At least big ones anyways.
job, and we appreciate it very much. They've done it. So she's suing me over banks that weren't defrauded, when she should be focused on violent crime that's driving people out of the state. This is a persecution, not an investigation. She's put our family through hell. It's cost hundreds of millions of dollars to defend, but our heads are held very, very high. They want to settle the case, but I want no part of that.
Oh, they want to settle the case? I didn't know that they wanted to settle the case.
It's where we were today, in a city that was so great just 4 or 5 years ago. But now we're there, spend time there today, as you possibly read, with a local failed district attorney charging a former president of the United States for the first time in history on a basis that every single pundit and legal analyst said, there is no case, there's no case. They kept saying, there's no case. Virtually everyone. But it's far worse than that, because he knew there was no case.
Pretty much everyone has known there's no case.
Delayed for a month and then immediately took that back and threw this ridiculous indictment together. Came out today, everybody said, this is not really an indictment, there's nothing here. My lawyers came to me and they said, there's nothing here, they're not even saying what you did. The criminal is the district attorney because he illegally leaked massive amounts of grand jury information.
Has it been proven that it was Alvin Bragg who leaked the information?
Be prosecuted, or at a minimum, he should resign.
Because Donald Trump has made this accusation multiple times. I have not seen evidence of this yet.
That claimed her husband has Trump nailed on felonies. She has since locked down her Twitter account. His chief prosecutor, who represented the Democrats and crooked Hillary Clinton in a firm run by Chuck Schumer's brother, Robert, he quit the firm in order to go to work in the DA office in order to get Trump. Can you imagine that? Hillary Clinton's lawyer, Democrat firm. Ultimately, he quit as chief prosecutor because Bragg didn't think he had a case. Think of that same guy that brought this ridiculous thing today. Yet during his investigation, this prosecutor named Mark Pomerantz wrote and published a book saying all sorts of privileged things and has been very strongly reprimanded. He was reprimanded so strongly. I've never seen anything like it. That's probably the end of it. But what he did was probably very illegal. But he was very, very strongly reprimanded. Even District Attorney Bragg was furious with him. They were having a tremendous fight in the office because of it. But hope is never lost because various prosecutors in the DA's office also quit because they thought President Trump was being treated very unfairly. How about that? Isn't that great? Oh, I love them. I'd like to meet them. I'd like to meet them. The DA's office even had a web page. Meet the team of executives who have done this to President Trump. That was the title. Isn't that nice? They immediately had to take it down. Meanwhile, overall, crime in New York was up 30% last year. Much more than that the year before, with felony assaults, robberies, and burglaries all up by massive, massive numbers. Not the same place that I know, not the same place that you know. And this is where we are right now. I have a Trump-hating judge with a Trump-hating wife and family whose daughter worked for Kamala Harris and now receives money from the Biden-Harris campaign and a lot of that. We recently had another trial, and the same judge told the fine man who worked for me for many, many years that if you admit your guilt, you will be in jail for 90 days. But if you don't, if we go through a trial and you're found guilty, you're going away for 10 years and maybe longer, which for a 75-year-old man with a great family really means life.
True.
What the prosecutors and
But did he just call himself old?
forget.
That's not going to make him look good in the 2023 campaign.
That's where we are. They said, you say anything about Trump, meaning that's bad, and you won't even have to serve the 90 days. You'll walk free. And they say that to many of my employees. We have this Jack Smith lunatic threatening people every single day.
Jack Smith.
They're threatening jail terms. But talk about Trump and you'll go free. This is where we are as a nation. Who would have thought They can't beat us at the ballot box, so they try and beat us through the law. That's the country in which we live, however, right now. The USA is a mess. Our economy is crashing, inflation is out of control. Russia has joined with China. Can you believe that? Saudi Arabia has joined with Iran. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have formed together as a menacing and destructive coalition. Would have never happened if I were your president. Would never have happened. Nor would Russia attacking Ukraine have happened. All of those lives would be saved. All of those beautiful cities would be standing. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. There will be no defeat like that. That will take us away from being even a great power. If you took the 5 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration have done. Incredibly, we are now a failing nation. We are a nation in decline. And now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement. We can't let that happen.
I'm pretty surprised that most people are refusing to recognize this as a interference into the election process.
And with a very dark cloud over our beloved country, I have no doubt, nevertheless, that we will make America great again. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much, everybody.
Oh, wow. That was surprisingly quick. I'm surprised at how quick that was. He was very quick and to the point. I am generally used to him not being so quick, not being so to the point. And, yeah, just going on and on. I think it was good that he seemed to use, like, somewhat precise language. I couldn't really imagine too many ways that people say that he like slipped up and lied or anything like that. There's a lot of the things that he talked about were just things that a lot of us have already known about how he's been targeted by the judicial branch in the past. This was actually a surprising speech. Not necessarily surprising in what he said, but surprising what he didn't say. Anyone reading his Truth Social posts probably would have found the post that he made there quite a bit more inflammatory than what he said here. And so it is actually a good and heartening thing to see that he certainly decided to tone down his rhetoric. Use a bit calmer speech, and really just focus on the task at hand, which is the fact that he is extremely likely being targeted politically. And, unfortunately, this is going to set a new precedent in the United States of America. And that's pretty dangerous. It would be interesting to see if this is something that Republicans reciprocate, because now this has essentially told pretty much any judge, any DA, as well as I think probably any president as well, that they can just organize or even charge and indict a political opponent because they don't like him and they want to prevent him from running for president. Now, hopefully, I would love to believe that this entire process is legitimate. No one likes to see corruption, right? But that's just becoming harder and harder to believe knowing how the person who the DA who led this charge, knowing how biased he was against Donald Trump and literally wanting to throw him in jail, not even knowing any crimes that he committed, but just saying that he wanted to throw him in jail, really is looking like a real show me the person and I'll show you the crime situation. Now, of course, if Donald Trump was, is found to be guilty, depending on the evidence that's brought forward, I think we do have a right to respect that decision. And hopefully he will not be, convicted of a crime he did not commit, which I think is, it's possible that that happens. And hopefully that's not what happens. But it seems like the most likely result of this is just going to be the charges being dismissed. But, I would hope that the Democratic Party would at least care enough about the integrity of the rule of law that they wouldn't, jail him or convict him if he actually did not commit any crimes. But yes, we'll just have to wait this out and see. I was watching Newsmax this morning and they had a really good point where they were telling demonstrators, go home and just wait for the process to bear itself out. Because honestly, people are protesting right now. People love to protest. But honestly, with these types of situations, especially when it's a branch of government that's completely detached from being held accountable at this point, protesting is not really going to do much. The only thing it'll do is provide cover for folks, whether members of the government or not, give them cover to provoke them to violence. And I think the last thing we want to see is violence from any of these situations. We did see some scuffles today, but not too much violence at any of the MAGA or pro-Trump demonstrations today, which has been very good. I'm actually pretty impressed. But yeah, certainly go home, just wait and see what happens, vote accordingly, and I guess pray that the integrity of these establishments would remain, because if we lose faith in the justice system, then that can cause even more problems in the United States of America, and I think it can cause people to act out in even more dangerous ways. So, those are my general thoughts on the whole situation. Now, as I'm sure you guys can probably tell by my voice, I'm coming down with a little bit of something. My throat's getting sore and scratchy. So I am going to be ending this stream now. I pretty much just hopped on because I wanted to react to Donald Trump's speech. I'm going to give my voice a rest. Chill, hang out for a little bit, but just not while streaming. Thursday's stream is most likely canceled. I might do a mostly silent Card 3 SMP stream. In the meantime, you can check out all the content that I'll still be posting to the Non-Newbie Clips channel. Non-Newbie Vlogs has really been popping off lately. I've been making more posts there more frequently. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. And I will see you guys, most likely next week as I healed up and I'll have a strong pair of lungs and a functioning throat with which to stream. So, peace out, y'all. you.